Everyone, how you doing? I'm Chef AJ. Welcome to Chef AJ Live. Before I introduce my guest, I just want you guys to know how much I appreciate you guys watching these and commenting. It seems like we're really creating a nice community here. The whole purpose of this was when we started the Sheltering in Live was to give people something to do other than watch the news and focus on what's wrong and to create a community and connection. And it's great because I see a lot of the same people watching live every time. People like Paul and Jesse and Nadej and two Lindas and so many of you, Gunther. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the comments. And it's always great when you introduce yourself to say where you're from, because that's how we're connecting people. So that's cool. If you don't follow me on YouTube already, please consider doing so, because I have a poll on the page to see what time you guys would like these lives to be. And that would be really helpful to know what you guys prefer. Of course, it's always going to depend on the guest, but I would like to find a time that I could just do every day. It's interesting, but 3 p.m. Pacific time is what's winning. But it seems that sometimes it's easier to get guests a little early. It just depends. Our next guest is from Australia, and it's actually breakfast time where he is. So it really is going to depend on the guest. You may have heard of him if you watch the news or follow different plant-based people, because he's known for eating nothing but my favorite food for an entire year. And actually, he's wearing a brown t-shirt today, and he kind of looks a little bit like a potato, a little bit. Mr. Potato Head, all the way from Australia. You're going to love his voice. His name is Andrew Taylor, also known as Spud Fit. Please welcome Andrew. It's been a while since we talked.
Hey, thank you for having me, AJ, and thanks everyone else for watching as well. I'm excited about this. It has been a while since we've talked, and I've missed you. It's good to be talking again.
You look great, but I'm telling you, with that brown shirt on, it's like all I'm thinking, like you're actually becoming to look like a potato.
You are what you eat. It was unplanned, but hey, I'll take it. I'll take it as a compliment. Most people would think it's an insult if you look like a potato, but I'm going to take it as a compliment.
No, it is a compliment, because I'm all about the potato. As a matter of fact, Dr. McDougall has a birthday coming up, and you know what? He's probably not watching, so I'll tell you what I got him. You know, I don't know how it is in your country, but here we have to wear masks when we go out, so I got him a potato mask.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Absolutely. What is it like in your country? Is it the same or different?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same. It hasn't hit Australia with the force that it's hit the US, and there's a lot of infections in the US as far as I know, and there's a lot of trouble there. But basically, as far as living life without the virus, it seems like it's pretty much the same. We're told to shelter in place, and we only go out for essential things, like if you need to get food from the grocery store, then you can go out, and that's basically it. You're supposed to stay home, and unless you're an essential worker. So from that point of view, it's the same. But yeah, we don't have the same health crisis that seems to be going on in the US. We don't have that many infections, luckily.
But how is it are you guys recovering from all the fires? That's just so devastatingly sad, especially all the animals and it's devastating.
Yeah, that was horrible, and yeah, it felt like we were just getting out the other side of the fires and starting to rebuild from that, and then this hit. So for me personally, I live about 2 hours drive away from the closest fire. So the worst thing I had to deal with was a lot of smoke. And it was a bit hard to breathe because it was smoky, but really I can't complain about that because a lot of people had it a lot worse than that. So, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of communities that they were just starting, like they were shut down for quite a while already because no business could operate while the fires were going. And then, they had a couple of weeks where they were open again and bang, they shut down again. So I think there's going to be a lot of people really struggling because of this, but
we're always going to remember 2020, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, Emily says, "Oh, I love Spudfit. I just made a batch of whole baked russets." Well, thank you for making the potato so popular.
No worries. It's funny, I actually a couple of years ago now, I was at an industry. I went to talk at an industry, like a farmers kind of conference, like a fresh produce farmers conference. It wasn't just a potatoes thing. It was a horticulture conference, and I was a speaker there, and I sat at a table next to there's a supermarket chain here called Coles, which is like the biggest supermarket chain in Australia. It's huge. And I sat next to the head of fresh produce for all of Coles in Australia. And she told me that for 30 years in a row, every single year, potato consumption in Australia has gradually gone down, bit by bit, year after year for 30 years in a row. And that year that I ate only potatoes for was the first year that potato consumption went up. And she told me that, and I was, as a joke, I just said, "Oh well, I'm going to take the credit for that, thank you." And she was seriously, she said, "Yes, you can. It's all because of you." And like, so yeah.
Well,
I think that's the cool thing.
I mean that sincerely, because I give a talk on calorie density. I often get hired on places at spas, cruise ships, in conferences, and I always mention you because I'm so tired of people bashing carbs in general and potatoes in particular, you know, and they're nature's most perfect food and the most delicious.
Yeah, yeah, and I hear it every day still. Like, still every single day I get emails and comments from people that say, "I'm glad it worked for you, but it could never work for me. Potatoes make me fat." And every single day that happens. And luckily I also get emails from people that say, "Wow, potatoes saved my life." So, you know, it balances it out. But yeah, we've got a lot of work to do still. We've changed perceptions a lot, but we've still got a lot of work to do.
I mean, potatoes have 1 calorie a gram. A food that is 1 calorie a gram cannot make anyone fat. It's not possible.
Yeah, exactly. And not only like most foods that are sort of a low calorie density, they don't really feel like they fill you up. But these, like potatoes do, you get the bone of the low calorie density with being able to feel full and satisfied for a long time. So yeah, what could be better? You get to eat as much as you want.
It's true. I don't know if you're familiar with what's called the Satiety Index. It was developed by a doctor named Susanna Holt, and people have sent me her LinkedIn profile, but she doesn't answer that. I've been dying to interview her because she did this thing. It's different than the glycemic index. It was how long a food keeps you satisfied. And potatoes are always number one. They are literally the most satiating food on the planet.
Yeah, I have heard of that. I didn't know any details about her, but I have definitely read about the Satiety Index. And yeah, it makes sense to me because if I eat a big plate of potatoes, I'm fine for hours. Whereas if I eat, you know, rice and veggies or something, then I'm still good, but I don't stay as full for as long. Yeah.
I agree. I'm the same way. And that's why potatoes or sweet potatoes are always my lunch. Here's a nice question from Regina. And she says, please ask why white potatoes get a bad rap when compared to sweet potatoes.
Yeah, well, I think that's pretty simple. I think potatoes, especially white potatoes, have basically become a delivery vehicle for junk. And, you know, that's really where it comes from. The way people usually eat sweet potatoes, they tend to eat sweet potatoes in a more healthy way. They have sweet potatoes with healthy toppings and, you know, a bit of salsa or some corn or, you know, things like that. But if you take a white potato, people tend to cook those in oil and they tend to serve them with cheese and sour cream and bacon bits and, you know, all this sort of junk. And I think that's why they get a bad rap because the people mistakenly blame the potato instead of blaming the cheese and bacon bits and, you know, sour cream that they have with it and the butter and the oil and all of that, which typically gets served with a white potato. So yeah, I think that's where the bad rap comes from, that people don't take the time to really think about that properly and understand what it is that's really doing the damage.
That makes perfect sense, actually, that explanation, because we associate more of the decadent stuff or the high calorie stuff with the potato than we do the sweet potato. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we have a question for you from, it goes so fast, the feed. I'm trying to find the person that asked it, but the question was, what is your personal favorite potato? That's from Emily.
Yeah, okay. Well, I do have a personal favorite sweet potato, and that's the Hawaiian. Well, you actually introduced me to it. The first time I had one was at your place, and it was amazing. You blew my mind. And it's the one that's the grayish kind of skin with the purple on the inside. Is that a Hawaiian one? That's a Hawaiian one, right?
I believe so. Yeah, you're exactly like beige on the outside, deep dark purple on the inside.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, in Australia.
Yeah, we can. It took me a long time to find them when I got back to Australia after visiting you. It took me quite a while until I actually found a place where I could buy them. But now I get a few kilos. I probably buy like 5 pounds every week now. Although since coronavirus, I haven't had one because the shop where I get them from is too far from my home, and you're not supposed to travel far. So yeah, so I'm missing those at the moment. But So someone just waved to me. But yeah, apart as far as white potatoes go, though, I don't have a favorite. I just get whatever's cheapest. I think they're all good, and I genuinely think they're all good. There's some are better for other things, and they do have slightly different flavors. But I don't have a favorite, so I just buy whatever's cheapest.
I agree. I think. Well, do you have an air fryer?
I do. Yeah. It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I love it for fries. I finally got one of those slicer things that make you just put it in and you go like this and the fries push out. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I had one of those, but I broke it.
Oh no, because it makes every fry perfect. But I find for fries, I seem to prefer the organic russets. But if I'm mashing it, I really like the Yukon Golds better.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, we don't, and it's funny, in Australia we have different varieties. We don't have russets or Yukon Golds. We probably do, but we call it a different name, I guess. So like different countries tend to give their potatoes different names. And it's interesting, because I've now got to know a few potato industry type of people, and I'm friends with the guy who's Australia's biggest potato producer, and he's like a mega millionaire because he's got this huge potato operation. Anyway, that's beside the point. What they have is a licensing thing where each country or continent has like one person is responsible for having imported the potato, because especially in Australia, we're an island and we're very strict on quarantine rules as far as food goes. So when you want to bring a new food in, it costs a lot of money because you have to set it up on a farm with an isolated paddock so it can grow there for a number of years while they check and make sure that it's not going to become an invasive species that then destroys other parts of the land. So it costs a lot of money to bring a new food in, and because of that, the person who pays all the money to import the food then has licensing rights to that food, and anyone else who wants to grow it has to pay a fee to the person who originally imported it, and because the person who originally imported it also gets to name that food. So that's why we all have different names for our potatoes in Australia, and it's probably the same, different names in Europe, different names in the US, because the same process happens that, if I import a russet potato to Australia, I'm not going to name it russet. I'll probably name it the Taylor potato or something. So that's interesting. I've never actually figured out which potato in Australia is the russet or the Yukon Gold or whatever. I don't know.
I think the russet, at least, they're more, they more are dark brown on the outside, and they're the ones like when you go to like Wendy's, for example, or when you go to a restaurant, you're generally going to get a russet. That's kind of like what everybody thinks of as a potato, and it's generally used for fries and chips. The Yukon Gold is more round rather than football shaped, and it's just very, very creamy. It's like that. Those are the two main ones that I.
The Yukon Gold, is that a big one as well?
They can be big, but they can also be, kind of small, like almost like golf ball size, and they're buttery. They're almost buttery. The best way I can describe it.
Well, that sounds like maybe what we call a charisma potato. The Yukon Gold might be a charisma in Australia.
That sounds even better.
and I think the russet maybe sounds like it might be what we call a Dutch cream.
Nice.
So, anyone watching in Australia, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Next time I should have brought the potatoes out, because I always have both in hand, as well as a whole bunch of sweet potatoes. Cindy says, yay, Spud Fit. Mark says, I've recovered my life and health back, and all inspired by Andrew's potatoes saving my life, down 79 pounds now. Absolutely. That's congratulations. That's terrific.
Oh, wow.
4 years since you did your 1 year of potatoes?
Yeah, it was 2016. So it's weird. It feels... At the same time, it feels like it was yesterday, but also in another life. It's weird. Yeah.
You lost 120 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And that's more than I weigh. That's like you lost me. Like like you were wearing me.
Yeah, my wife as well. I lost more than what my wife weighs too. Well, she never had the same problems with me. Like she's always been, a lean person and had a healthy diet, and yeah, it was a sort of a milestone during that year, the day that I reached the point where I'd lost what my wife weighed. That was pretty weird.
Have you kept it up?
We've got photos now where both of us are like inside one of my old t-shirts, like with her head coming out the neck hole, and we're just there. It's quite funny.
That's hilarious. Have you kept it off?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't actually weigh myself anymore, to be honest, but my clothes all still fit, and I still eat the same way that I did, and yeah, so yeah, I can't tell you exactly what I weigh because my focus is not on what I weigh. It's on just making sure that I'm eating healthy. And I think if you eat the right way and you eat a lot of potatoes, a lot of other vegetables, lots of fruit, all of those sorts of things, then you're going to do well. So I just focus on that rather than what I weigh. But yeah, this is the same size t-shirt that I had at the end of that year. So yeah, and I
I
feel
love
good.
that. You said something, I don't know if you noticed, that was very profound. I host a annual summit called The Truth About Weight Loss, and you said something like, yeah, I eat the same way I did. And people don't realize that that is the secret, at least to weight maintenance, because so many people go on a specific kind of diet and then they go off the diet and they wonder why they gained the weight back. You're eating the same way you ate to lose weight as you are to maintain your weight.
Yeah, that's really important. I think it's and I talk about this with the people who I coach all the time, that we have to, when we're doing a new diet or we're trying to lose weight, trying to get healthy, whatever it is, it's really important that we work hard on, instead of making that a thing that we're doing, we've got to try to make it a part of who we are. And it's these, if you just start a new diet, whether it's the Chef AJ Ultimate Weight Loss Plan or whether it's Spud Fit or McDougall's plan or whatever it is, if you just try to, it's a thing that you want to do because you want to knock 10 pounds off, then you're just going to do it. You're going to lose your 10 pounds and then you're going to gain it back. We need to work on making it a part of who we are. This is not a thing that I'm trying. This is just the way I live. This is who I am. And that's, when you can get to that point in time, then you can be confident that the weight's going to stay off. Yeah.
Absolutely. Leah says, I love potatoes, but I want spicy hot mustard on them. Why not? Mustard is delicious on potatoes.
Yeah, have spicy hot mustard. I do it, yeah. Well, I don't have spicy hot mustard that often. I do have mustard occasionally, but I do like hot sauce. I have hot sauce all the time. It's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you eat all of your potatoes with the skins on, or are there some that you peel? Asks Stephanie.
Yes, I do eat them all with the skins on, but only because I'm lazy. Like, I don't think there's any nutritional reason that you must eat the skins, or if you don't eat the skins, then you're not getting whatever nutrients and whatever. None of that really worries me. I just don't peel them because I can't be bothered with it. It takes too long, and I've got better things to do with my time.
I agree with you. If there's an easier, lazy way to do something, I'm going to do it. So it's possible that not everybody watching knows your story, because I see a question from Ginny. How and why did he decide to do his potato challenge?
Okay, yeah, well, thanks for asking. I forget that there are people that haven't heard my story. So yeah, basically, like everyone, I spent a lifetime going up and down, and well, not everyone, but like lots of overweight people, I spent a lifetime going up and down, and I was very good at losing weight and then regaining it. And I'll try to keep this short, but basically one day I had a realization that my behavior with food mirrored the behavior of an alcoholic. So everyone's known an alcoholic who can go a few weeks or a few months or even a couple of years without drinking alcohol. And then sure enough, the moment in time comes where they'll think, I've got this under control. I'm doing really well. And, it's my best friend's wedding. So I'm just going to have one beer tonight and then I'll go back to being sober tomorrow and everything will be okay. And then sure enough, one beer turns into 10 beers, turns into waking up in the gutter with, in a pool of your own vomit or whatever. And yeah, that was pretty much the way I was behaving with food. I could do a month here and a month there, eating really well, lose weight, feel great, all of that. And then tell myself, I deserve a reward. I just deserve a little bit of something for my efforts. And just this little bit won't hurt, just this once. I'll go back to my healthy eating plan tomorrow, or I'll get up early and do some extra running to make up for it. Or, something along those lines. And then sure enough, that one slice of pizza would be the beginning of the end and all the weight would come back on. And, it was exactly the same behavior as an alcoholic. So I had that realization that I was a food addict, and I'd never had that realization before. And then through the logical thought process, I realized that every other addiction treats that addiction. Most people agree that if you're a heroin addict, you should quit. If you're an alcoholic, you should quit. If you're a gambling addict, you should quit. Everything, it's all about, you just can't do that thing anymore. and I wondered if the same sort of thing could work for food addiction. So I did a lot of research over a couple of months, and I have a science degree, so I was able to use that it's not a nutrition degree, but at least I understand the science. I was able to do a lot of research and figure out that if I wanted to use that abstinence model, then potatoes was the best thing. I could get as close as possible to quitting food by quitting everything except one food, and then treat my food addiction that way. So yeah, I did a year of eating only potatoes, and that was the reasoning behind it, and it worked really well for me. I lost a lot of weight. I changed my relationship with food completely, and then since then, for the last 3 years, I don't eat only potatoes. I eat a lot of potatoes still, but I think I probably eat along the lines of what you, AJ, promote. I don't do the veggies for breakfast thing that you do, but I do eat a lot of veggies. Actually, I did have veggies for breakfast yesterday. I did it because I was coming on here.
Thank you.
I thought, yeah, AJ eats veggies for breakfast. I'm talking to AJ tomorrow. Let's have veggies for breakfast. And
How about veggies
good.
with potatoes? See, you can have veggies with potatoes. You know, I interviewed Dr. Barnard yesterday, and he doesn't just eat veggies for breakfast, but he eats veggies with, like he says, he eats broccoli and tempeh together.
Yeah. Well, I had half a kilo, which is a bit over a pound of broccoli. I had that with rice, brown rice. And that was my breakfast yesterday. It was a big, huge breakfast, and it was good. And actually, I enjoyed it. It's not like, so maybe I will start eating veggies for breakfast like you do. I don't know.
You know what? Let me explain why I do it. Well, this is your hour, so I don't want to take
That's okay.
time. But it's sort of like, it's very easy to eat potatoes because they're delicious, and I'll eat them all day. Once I eat something really delicious like potatoes or sweet potatoes or rice, then I have no interest in the veggies. So I use the old saying that hunger is the best sauce. So after I get off my spin bike for an hour and I'm hungry, it's the easiest time for me to eat vegetables and enjoy them.
Yeah, I love that saying, by the way. Hunger is the best sauce. Is that what it was?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is because when you're hungry, even steamed turnips are good.
Yeah, that's good. I haven't heard that one before, but I love it. I'm going to use that. I'll reference you.
Oh, and I'm sure I heard it or stole it from somebody else, but I have heard that saying said many times before.
Yeah.
So,
sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, like potatoes, they're not only nutritious and delicious, but really, can you think of any food that's less expensive?
No, yeah, well, it's very, very cheap. When maybe brown rice would compete with it for me. Brown rice is pretty cheap, but other than that, potatoes are, when I'm eating only potatoes, which I don't do anymore, but when I was doing only potatoes, actually I did in January this year, I did a month of only potatoes as like a support thing, my way of supporting a group of people who I was coaching through it. But apart from that, I don't really do only potatoes. But when I did, it was less than $5 Australian a day to keep me fed. And I'm a big guy and I eat a lot. And yeah, so $5 Australian a day, that'd be like $3.50 US per day. And that's eating as much as you want. Like that was, yeah, it's great. There's so many benefits for it. And especially now with, lots of people are struggling financially at the moment. So yeah, what better time to eat some potatoes?
I couldn't agree with you more. So I Googled it, and it is Miguel de Cervantes Saavedra who said, hunger is the best sauce. So I like to give credit where credit is due. So somebody's asking if you have before and after pictures. I'm trying to Google that to provide a link, but I mean, I've seen them, and you were 120 pounds heavier, that's for sure.
Yeah. If you go to spudfit.com, I'm trying to remember, if you slide down a bit, there's a picture of me. It looks like it's on a phone. And then you can slide the slider left and right. It's a pretty cool little trick. And if you slide it one way, you see the before. And if you slide it the other way, you see the after. So yeah, that's on spudfit.com if anyone wants to look that up and see that. Yeah, it's not nice for me to look at, but you're welcome to look at it.
I like having my before picture though, because it's very motivating to just, I wish my friends would do that.
Right now, it is motivating, yeah. And I do see it pretty regularly, but so yeah, it takes me to a place where I didn't enjoy my life at that time, and I was clinically depressed and anxious, and my life was in bad shape. So when I look at that photo, I don't just look at a fat guy. I look at the soul of the man who's living in that body and really not enjoying life. So it does make me, that's why it makes me feel, I don't feel down because of how I look. I feel down because I remember how I felt when I was in that body. So yeah, that's the reason it makes me sad.
Yeah. Well, you know, have you ever heard of Kathleen De Maison in a book called Potatoes Not Prozac?
I have, yeah. It's
Because I
very,
wonder if one of the reasons your mood improved is because she was using potatoes therapeutically as like an antidepressant.
yeah, it's no doubt. And I didn't know about that until after my depression improved. So yeah, I had no expectations at all that this potato year would do anything for my mental health. That's not something that ever crossed my mind. But then when I noticed it was improving, I got curious, and I wanted to learn about like what's going on here. Why is this like I don't understand? So that's when I started doing a little bit of research into how food can impact mental health and especially depression. And yeah, I discovered that book, and it was very, very interesting. And there is quite a lot of research into especially potatoes, but lots of whole food, plant-based kind of ways of eating, not necessarily whole food, plant-based, but you know, people with diets higher in fiber, for example, fiber comes from plants, tend to be you know, have better mental health. And yeah, potatoes have been tested multiple times comparing the effect of potatoes versus Prozac or other antidepressants. So yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Have you ever gotten in touch with the other people that have eaten potatoes for a long period of time? Like I know there's that famous KON, the Con Potato Study. Do you remember that one?
Yeah. No, I haven't had contact with them. I did write there was a guy in I think in Idaho, maybe 10 years ago or something. I don't know who ate only potatoes for a couple of months, and I wrote
Chris Voigt.
Yeah, him.
Did he ever write back to you?
No, I didn't hear back from him, but he's a busy guy. So you know, maybe my email went to his spam box or something. I don't know, but I only tried once. If I tried again, maybe I'd hear from him. But yeah, no, I haven't really had a lot of contact with those people. No.
Yeah, that would be interesting if you got in touch with any of those people to, you know, because I'm sure it's not going to be a big support group of people that did it for as long as you, but that would be interesting.
No. Well, I have coached a couple of people now who have done. Most of the time when I coach people, I think like 2 weeks or a month is a good amount of time to do only potatoes, just to reset. You know, I did it for a year, but when I did it, I didn't know what I know now. With the knowledge that I have now, I think, yeah, 2 weeks or a month is a good amount of time, and then get back to eating, you know, whole food, plant-based foods. But yeah, I have coached a few people now who have not wanted to go back to whole plant foods and just wanted to stick with potatoes and do the whole year like I have. So I think there's like 4 people now that have done a whole year, and there was one guy that even did a year and a half. And yeah, people are doing really, really well. So I do have contact with some people that have had that sort of length of time that I have, but yeah, it's interesting. Everyone has the same feelings about it. That when they get through a long period of time of eating only potatoes, they feel good about it, they feel comfortable with it, they don't stress about, I really want to eat other foods or whatever. It's just, you just get into a groove and you feel happy and comfortable eating potatoes, and you feel really good about life. And yeah, it happens the same way for everyone. It would be interesting to speak to people that did it before me, though.
Absolutely. Well, that's incredible. I've never tried to do any kind of eating only of one food, but I would imagine that if I mean, first of all, the bulk of my calories is already coming from potatoes and sweet potatoes. Yeah. When I eat potatoes, you know, you know, these people come to my program, they're like, oh, I ate a potato. And I'm like, well, I eat like 3 pounds. I mean, like, I mean, they don't understand how much you need to eat on such a low calorie dense food to feel full. So, but I would imagine if I did only potatoes, I think that I would probably miss the vegetables. I think that's what instead of dreaming of hot fudge sundaes, like, I don't know if people do that, I think I would miss vegetables.
Yeah, and I also don't think there would be any point to you doing it. Like, why? There's no, you know, you have
just like, I don't know, I just like to try, I just like to challenge myself, you know, but I just think, but I was thinking for somebody that was doing it like you the first time, were you dreaming of other foods?
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, I was. Yeah, the first 2 weeks of that were really super, super hard. They were like the hardest thing I've ever done. And a lot of people don't know, but I was already vegan before I did that. I I've been vegan for 14 years now. So when I started that year, I was vegan for 9 years already. But you know, I was a junk food vegan. And you know, I like to say that. So like, I think vegan ice cream, for example, is probably healthier than dairy ice cream, but the lesser of two evils is still evil. So it's still not good. And yeah, so yeah, I was definitely craving all those kinds of things: ice cream, chocolate, pizza, all the same stuff that everyone would normally crave. Just I was craving the vegan versions of it instead of the standard versions. So yeah, that first couple of weeks was really, really hard. And then, between like over the course of week 3 and week 4, I started to really get my head around things. And then, yeah, it was sort of, I got in a groove from then on, and the rest of the year was fine. Yeah.
Clara says, why do you think people say not to eat potatoes if you want to lose weight?
Yeah, I just think, well, there's some misconceptions. I think, first of all, that people think, well, potatoes have a high percentage of their calories come from carbohydrates. Carbohydrates have a bad name for a whole bunch of reasons, but people mistake potatoes for being a high calorie food when they're not a high calorie food. They're a high carbohydrate food, but that doesn't make them high in calories. That just means the percentage of their calories that they do have, most of it comes from carbohydrates. So that's an easy mistake for people to make, and I understand why people would make that mistake, because most people don't really have the time or inclination to want to look into, the truth behind these things. So yeah, I think that's part of it. And then yeah, another part is, like we said a little bit earlier, about potatoes. Most people eat potatoes deep fried in oil or baked with oil poured over them, and then they serve them with cheese and bacon bits and sour cream, and then they mistakenly blame the potato for the problems that causes. And yeah, so it's sort of a twofold thing. I think there's a couple of different angles to come at it.
The humble Spud gets blamed for so much.
Yeah.
Robert Cheek is in the house. He says, what up, my man? Nice to see you, bro.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, Robert. I trained with Robert actually in Sydney. He did a training session in Sydney, and I came and joined in, and that was maybe like 2 months before I started my potato year. So I was a big guy then when I met Robert, and but we did some training together. It was great fun. So yeah, thanks, Robert. You're an inspiration.
Nice. Robin says, did you just eat potatoes when you did your 1 year, or did you have any veggies or fruit too?
It was just potatoes. I had, yeah, just potatoes with a little bit of. Most of the time, it was strictly just potatoes. But occasionally, when I was feeling like I wanted something a little bit different, then I would have some dried herbs and spices, or maybe a little bit of hot sauce or something like that. And that was it. That was, or when I made mashed potatoes, sorry, I would have a low fat, no added oil soy milk just to help me mash the potatoes, and that was it. That was what I ate for the whole year. But yeah, so that's what I did. And since then, though, I do now eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit, and that was always the aim. I had tried to be stick to whole food plant-based eating before, and I was never able to do it. I was not good at it. I could do it for a short period of time, and then I'd fall off the wagon. And so the whole aim of this was to get to the way that I eat now. It was always a stepping stone. So I did eat only potatoes for that period of time, but the point of it was that I wanted to be able to stick to fruits and vegetables and grains and beans, as the majority of what I eat. And yeah, that's what I do now. A lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit, a lot of potatoes still, and that's the way I eat now. Yeah, I call it mega foods actually. That's my my name for what I do now. I eat mega foods, not only potatoes.
Great. Well, potato is the ultimate mega food. Karen says, how was it when he started the introducing other foods back into his diet?
Yeah, it was fine. When I finished that year, I honestly didn't want to. Well, not that I didn't want to, but I didn't care about what I was introducing. I knew I wanted to introduce whole, unprocessed plant foods. But when I had a big breakfast plan, and we had a big party on the January 1st, the breakfast party, and I celebrated on national live TV. Celebrated my first meal in a year that wasn't potatoes, and even when we were planning for that, we had a caterer come to do the party, and they said, "What do you want us to cook?" And I was like, "I just don't care. I just don't care." And but we need you to tell us something. And it was a friend of mine had this catering company. So I said, I said, well, what meal do you have that looks best on TV? And they said, oh, yeah, I just wanted them to be able to promote their business because it was going to be on TV. They had the big, that silver dome lid thing where you presented and opened that up. It was all on camera. So I said, just make the thing that looks best on TV so we can use that to promote your catering company, and let's just do that. And yeah, that first meal was an interesting meal with lots of stuff. And then after that, I just went back to my first 2 weeks. I had potatoes and tomatoes and bananas and broccoli. That was all I ate for 2 weeks. And then, I slowly introduced more other things in, and now I eat a big variety of stuff. But, I didn't go crazy. I didn't want to go crazy. There was nothing in me that wanted to just go out and eat everything I could find. I was very comfortable with only potatoes, and I would have been happy to continue on with only potatoes, but I felt like I also just wanted to be, a more normal kind of part of society at that point. So I started eating other things as well. But yeah, and that's the way I approach food now. It's no big deal. I'm happy to eat a cold potato straight out of the fridge and just pick it up and eat it like an apple. That's fine by me. But I also like to sometimes have a really nice, delicious meal that my wife has cooked or that I cook or whatever. Or yeah, but yeah, I'm pretty relaxed about food. It's not a big deal to me.
Yeah, the only way I don't like potatoes are raw. I just don't think they taste very good.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm not into that. I do hear from people often that like raw potatoes, but no, not for me, thanks.
When you transitioned back to other foods, was there any gastric distress from just having eaten one food for so long? Did you have to get used to eating fruits and vegetables?
No, after that breakfast that I had, that was a very small shock to the system, and I mean very small. So I ate breakfast at like 7:30 a.m. for the TV, and then I think maybe at like 2 in the afternoon, I had a very small stomach cramp, I remember, and it lasted for like 15 minutes, and that was it. And then I was fine from then on. Yeah,
that's great.
It was no problem at all.
Rosemary wants to know, what is your favorite way to eat potatoes?
Well, I have two favorites. My number one favorite is mashed potato. I don't think it's hard to go past mashed potato. It's very, very filling and satisfying. I don't know anyone who doesn't like mashed potato. So yeah, that's number one. But I also have, if I want something a little bit unusual, a little bit special, I love making potato waffles. And that's really, really simple. You just get a boiled potato. You got to boil it till it's like soft all the way through. And then you put it in your waffle iron. Got to be a non-stick waffle iron because we don't use oil. So non-stick waffle iron, and you literally just squash the boiled potato, squash it down as hard as you can in the waffle iron and let it cook for about 20 minutes. And then you've got beautiful crunchy potato waffles. And yeah, I love those. Sometimes I'll make them like put some salsa on them, or make them, chop up some tomatoes and red onions or something like that, and make it a little bit like a bruschetta. Yeah, that's really nice. I like that. Or sometimes I'll even put mashed potato on top of my potato waffle. That's pretty good too.
That's funny that you say you like to double up your potatoes, because I do something where I take hash browns and I make a panini and then I put mashed potatoes on it. So I love to have potatoes with my potatoes. Yeah. So Suzanne wants to know, what was your wife and family eating when you were just eating potatoes?
Well, at the time I had a 2-year-old boy, Teddy, my son, who's 6 now. He was 2 when I started. So he, like a 2-year-old, he didn't really know what was going on. He actually tells me sometimes that he wants me to do a year of potatoes again so that this time he can remember it. But yeah, so he just ate what he ate, and my wife just ate what she ate. I guess they both ate a lot more potatoes than they were previously. But yeah, my wife, like I said earlier, she was already lean and healthy and very good at eating healthy. She eats 90 whatever % whole food plant-based. She is one of these people that can have 1 square of chocolate and then leave it for a few days. So she does that, and I think that's fine. If you're someone who can eat 1 square of chocolate and then not look at it again for 3 or 4 days, I don't see a problem with that. And it's not, the problem that I had was mine. I didn't want to make my wife change and follow me or anything like that. I just wanted her to do her thing. And so yeah, she ate a lot of potatoes, but apart from that, whole food, plant-based with an occasional something else, which is still what she does. And yeah, I just ate my potatoes, and we lived harmoniously.
Were you guys already vegan before you did the year of potatoes?
Yeah, we went vegan 14 years ago. So yeah, and so we had been vegan 9 years already before we started the potato year. So yeah, it was. We originally went vegan for like as an ethical thing, and we went. Yeah, it's funny. We went vegan like before YouTube, before Facebook existed. Like, yeah, it was just an animal rights thing for us, and we had never even we didn't even meet another vegan until we had been vegan already for 6 years. We didn't know anybody. It was a different world for veganism back then. It was like, I didn't even know that vegan meat and all that existed when I went vegan until like a month later. We went to a vegan restaurant that had like pork and chicken and all this stuff on the menu, and we're like, what the hell's going on here? We thought this was a vegan restaurant. And they went, yeah, this is all vegan stuff. I'm like, what? Yeah, it was weird. So, but yeah, we have been vegan for quite a long time, and it was, well, yeah, it was an animal rights thing, and it still is. That's still a big thing for me. But yeah, now it's combined with a healthy lifestyle thing as well. Yeah.
You know, when you told me about your wife can eat one square of chocolate, that's like my husband. And don't those people drive you crazy?
Yeah, they certainly do. I don't know how you do that, but and I don't have any interest in finding out if I can do it now. The chocolate sits in the fridge in its spot, and it's whatever it can. I can take it or leave. I was going to say I can take it or leave it, but I don't take it. I just leave it. And yeah, it is. I don't understand it. I don't like it. It's if you really love it and it's great. Like I used to love it. Like how do you just go, wow, that was amazing. I love that, but I'm going to stop now. I don't get that.
That's hilarious. You know, it's so funny when you said you were vegan before the internet, before Facebook or YouTube. I was vegan before the internet.
Yeah, you've been ages now, haven't you? How long have you been vegan?
43 years. 43
wow, that's
years.
so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So that cracks me up. So, question about your mashed potatoes from Inez. How do you make them? What ingredients do you use? You have a cookbook. You have 2 cookbooks actually.
Yeah, we do have cookbooks. So yeah, you can find those on spudfit.com. But yeah, it's pretty simple. I'll get my Instant Pot and I'll fill it as full as it can go. And then we'll boil some potatoes that way. And then I'll add a little bit of onion powder, a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of nutritional yeast, and a little bit of soy milk. And then just mash it up. And yeah, it's delicious. I love it. It's beautiful. And yeah, it really gets the job done and really satisfies. So it's not like, most people who make mashed potato, most of the general public sort of mashed potato would put butter and cream in it and those sorts of things. But so yeah, if you make it this way and you're used to eating it that way, then it might take a little bit of adjusting. But I promise you, give it a week or 2 and you're gonna love it. It's really good. I'm all about mashed potatoes. I eat mashed potatoes probably like 3 to 4 times a week. It's great.
Mashed potatoes are the ultimate comfort food. This is the book I have in print. The other one I have only in ebook.
Yeah, I should have brought the books with me so I could show you. I don't know why I didn't do that. Maybe I'll have one in my bag here.
The other one has a beautiful photo on the cover. MKB, he lost 120 pounds eating only potatoes for a year, but he doesn't weigh himself. But he knows he's the same because his clothes still fit. Yeah, 43 years vegan, Stephen Turner. I actually have an award on the wall from being inducted into the Vegetarian Hall of Fame. Let me see.
Oh, that's cool.
Clara May loves both of our calming thoughts about food. That's because potatoes keep you calm. Hey, this is a silly question, and not that it would ever happen, but let's say you were on death row for a crime you didn't commit. Would your last meal be potatoes?
Yeah, no doubt. No, I don't even have to think twice about that. Yeah, definitely. I would. Potatoes have. Honestly, I don't think potatoes are like the most delicious, most amazing food, but they're the food that makes me feel the best. So, and they've changed my life. And I have a sort of sounds weird, I guess, but I feel like I have a deep connection with potatoes. They've done a lot for me, and they've totally helped me turn my life around. I, of course, did a lot of hard work on myself, but potatoes were a vehicle that allowed me to do that. So yeah, I love potatoes.
Yeah, I agree. They allow you to look and feel your best. So speaking at the McDougall Advanced Study Weekend, was that a high point in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. That was amazing. That was when I first had this idea of I wonder what would happen if I quit all food except one and get as close as possible to the abstinence model. The first thing I did was I picked up my laptop, which happened to be on the coffee table right in front of me. I picked it up and I Googled. So I can't remember exactly what I Googled, but I was trying to find out if there was one food that we could live on. And the very first thing that came up at the top of Google was Dr. McDougall talking about potatoes being the perfect food for humans. And I watched that video, and then that basically started me down the path. And I didn't just take his word for it, though I should have, because everything that he said turned out to be right. But I did investigate, and I looked into everything he said, and I looked up the science and spent a lot of time deep diving into that side of things. And I didn't just look at potatoes, I looked at all sorts of foods. But anyway, the point is that it all started from Dr. McDougall, and he really started me down that path. And I read all of his books, and I watched a lot of his lectures. I got the Starch Solution certificate, which everyone should do. It's free at the moment. I paid for it, but it's free now, so everyone should do that. The Starch Solution certificate. He played a huge part in changing my life. Without him, I'm not sure that this would have happened, because I don't know that I would have come across the information. I don't know that I would have even thought to look at potatoes. I don't know that would have happened without him, because I was like everyone else. I thought potatoes make you fat, so avoid those. Who knows what I would have ended up trying. I probably would have still tried something, but I don't know that it would have worked, because it would have been something that wasn't potatoes.
Yeah. Well, I think we all owe so much to Dr. McDougall. He really paved the way.
It was a huge honor. Sorry to get back to the question. I got detoured there, but it was a massive honor. He's a hero of mine, and to be able to go to his conference and talk there, and meet him and talk to him, and I'm lucky to be able to call him a friend now, as you are. And it was a huge honor. It was a big highlight of my life. Yeah.
I was so nervous at that conference. I'll tell you, when I spoke, that's just,
Yeah.
I always think of his conferences like the Academy Awards of all the plant-based conferences.
Yeah. If anyone's seen my talk, it's on YouTube. But the first thing I did was I got up on stage and I took a selfie with the crowd, and I had to explain to the crowd that this is not what people usually do when they talk, but I feel like I've just won the Super Bowl and I want to get a photo of the moment. So let's get a photo. And then I got into my talk after that.
Nice. Heidi says she sat next to you at True North and got your autograph, and that she cherishes your autograph. And Stacy says, I'm scared to make this my lifestyle, but how can I keep on it? I'm pre-diabetic and I have 30 pounds to lose. Help.
Well, yeah, you need to do some work. I've got a whole course, as you do, which is all about how to keep on it. So it's really hard to just boil down how do you keep on it to a short answer on a YouTube video. But my number one thing would be, we really need to figure out why you want to do it and what you want out of life, and then really focus on that as your driver for making decisions. And we need to learn to stop before making food decisions and really contemplate whether that thing that you're doing is taking you closer to the life that you want to live and the goals that you have. So it's really, the crux of it, I think, is about learning to make decisions based on logic and reason rather than on emotion. We need to remove emotion from our decision-making process, and there's a lot that goes into that. But it all starts with figuring out why you're doing what you're doing. And for me, that was my son at the time. I was a big motivation, because basically I didn't want him. Kids turn out like their parents most of the time. Pretty much every kid is a lot like their parents, and that was a really scary thought for me. I really didn't. The worst thing I could think of at the time was for my boy to end up like me. So I needed to change a lot about myself, so that motivation was there, and that was my why. So I think, start with finding your why, and then from there you need to work on how can you remove emotion from your decision making and learn to think logically and rationally about your food choices. And yeah, that's a very short answer to a very, very big question. So go to spudfit.com and you can look up more information, or go to AJ's website and you can look up more information to learn more about how to do that. Yeah.
Or just read one of the books about, like on Dr. Barnard, Reversing Diabetes, you know,
Yeah.
or Mastering Diabetes, you know, one of those.
Yeah.
We don't care how you get healthy. We just want you to get healthy.
Exactly.
You know, I love that you said about finding the why. I talk about that a lot, and I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Rosanna Alviera pretty soon, and she talks about the why that makes you cry. And I find that when people have a strong enough why, they never have a problem figuring out the how.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, my why being my son. That was I basically I had lost hope in myself, and I was my mental health was not at all good. I was very depressed, very anxious, very, you know, I'd given up on myself. But when I realized that it was my son was going to turn out like me, it was like I can't give up on him. I just can't give up on him. And there was, during that first couple of weeks when I was eating only potatoes, and I hated the thought of another potato. Like after doing it for 4 days, it was like, oh, I just could not face another potato. And then I would remind myself, okay, do I want to eat a potato, or do I want to go back to being a poor example for my son? And then it was like, okay, I'm going to eat potatoes. Like there's just nothing I wouldn't do for my son. There's nothing I wouldn't do for him. And yeah, that was a strong motivation. Yeah, there was nothing that was going to break me when I knew that this is for him. Yeah.
Nice. Beverly says, I have to be careful with potatoes as they are high in potassium. I'm not sure why that would be a problem. Maybe she could eat sweet potatoes.
Yeah, I don't, unless you've got some kind of medication that interacts with potassium, then you don't have to be careful with potatoes for potassium. There are, you know, potassium overload can be a problem if you are taking potassium in an isolated supplement form, because your body digests it very quickly, and that's a problem. But when you're taking potassium in the form of a whole unprocessed potato or a banana or other high potassium foods, then the potassium in them digests very slowly, as opposed to the supplement form, which digests very quickly. So you would have to eat like I can't remember the number, but it's something like 20 kilos of potatoes in the space of 10 minutes, like 40 pounds of potatoes in 10 minutes to get any potassium problem. So if you've got some kind of medication that means that it's interacting with potassium, then okay, you might have to be careful. But if that's not the case, then forget about potassium problems. You're not going to get problems from potatoes. Yeah.
Okay. Suzanne wants to know if you took any supplements the year you ate only potatoes.
B12, that's it. I didn't take any other supplements. I just had B12. I think that's important for not just vegans or plant-based people. I think it's important for pretty much everyone. There's a lot of people that have B12 problems, so why not just supplement? It's pretty easy. But yeah, that's all I did. I took B12 and that's it.
Right. Emily says, do you think you would have gotten the same benefits if you hadn't done it for a whole year? A year is a long time.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I felt like, I remember thinking after 2 months, I felt I was sitting around thinking about what I'd done, and I really felt like everything that I wanted to achieve from the year, as far as dealing with my relationship with food and the food addiction and all that, I felt like that was done after 2 months. So yeah, that's the short answer is yes. I think 2 months was enough for me in hindsight, but from that point on, I really just finished off the year because I said I would. There wasn't anything left that I felt like I needed to achieve. But I said I would do a year, so I just wanted to finish what I started. That was the reason I kept going after that point. Yeah.
Nice. Al wants to know, what did you drink? Only water?
I drank water, got water here. That was nearly all of what I drank. And the other thing was, every now and then I would have a couple of beers. And yeah, that was, I've actually stopped drinking alcohol now, but you know, I'm definitely not going to tell you that alcohol is a good idea. I think it's unhealthy, but at that point in time, my attitude to it was, food is my big problem, and I want to put 100% of my focus onto food and deal with food. And I can, you know, when I get to the point in time where alcohol is my biggest problem, then I'll deal with alcohol then. But for now, that was my process that I went through, and I felt like if I was to quit alcohol, not that alcohol was a big problem, it was just an occasional thing, but if I quit alcohol and food at the same time, I felt like maybe that would be too much pressure, a little bit too much to focus on. And I wanted to keep it really simple and really basic, and just focus on the food and deal with that. So yeah, water's the bit that I recommend. Drink lots of water, and then an occasional beer was the thing that I don't recommend, but that's what I did.
Well, I would have thought if you were going to drink alcohol, you would have drank vodka, because at least it's made out of potatoes.
Yeah. I didn't think of that either.
Let's be consistent. Inez wants to know, are there different nutritional benefits based on the type of potato?
Well, yeah, no, not really. If you're talking about white potatoes, yeah, there's going to be small variations between different kinds of white potatoes, but nothing really. Like, there's no reason for you to say I'm going to eat only russets because they have more of X vitamin than Yukon Golds do. There's no reason to do that. But yeah, if you're talking about differences between normal potatoes and sweet potatoes, then yeah, there are differences. But again, it's not something like, for example, sweet potatoes have a lot more vitamin A, and normal potatoes have more of other things. But I really don't think there's any reason to focus on any particular kind of nutrient. I think you're going to be fine, especially if you're including lots of other fruits and vegetables and all that. There's no reason to focus on any nutrient at all, or think that you have to eat, and you have to eat kale because of this nutrient, you have to eat lentils because of this nutrient. You just eat food and it's all going to work out,
I completely agree with you, because if anybody wants to Google that study, KON potato study, this young couple, they were healthy, they were athletes, they ate nothing potatoes for an entire year. It wasn't because they were overweight or food addicted. It was to prove that they would get no nutritional deficiencies from eating only potatoes. They actually had to add oil to their food because they weren't getting enough calories. So I agree with you about this worrying about this and this. It's just eat whole food, people,
Yeah, and that's where my mega foods idea sort of came from, is that's the way I eat now, and that's like my sort of take on the whole food plant-based way. And really it's I got really frustrated with this whole focus on individual nutrients and superfoods. Like, you've got to eat spirulina because it's got so much of X nutrient, and you've got to eat kale because it's got so much of this, and all these different superfoods. Everyone wants to focus on superfoods, and it really got frustrating to me. And I think when you're focusing on superfoods but you're not getting the rest of your diet right, then to me it feels a little bit like you're trying to strap a turbocharger onto a misfiring engine. And what's the point of that? And I really think we need to focus on the core foods, the staples, and get that right. And that's like, you've got a big V8 engine, and that's powered by, you've got to get that finely tuned and running well, firing on all cylinders, and, put the right fuel in it, make sure it's purring like a kitten, and then you can put a turbocharger on it if you want. And the turbocharger would be all those superfoods, but the engine itself is what's more important, and that's your potatoes, your rice, your sweet potatoes, your corn, your beans, all your different grains, your oats, all those sorts of things. So I really think that we're far better off focusing on getting that, the bulk, where the bulk of our calories come from, those staples, the mega foods that I call them. Focus on that, get that right, and then you can add your superfoods, your vegetables, your fruits, all that to make it all nice and pretty and tasty and interesting and all of that. But yeah, focusing on individual nutrients, in my opinion, is if you're eating this way, the way that you talk about and the way I talk about and all the doctors that we appreciate talk about, if you're eating that way, you just don't need to worry about any individual nutrients at all. It's going to be fine. Just eat food and relax.
I agree. Christy says, do the potatoes have to be organic?
No, I don't eat organic. Well, I do sometimes eat organic potatoes, but for me, especially now, at the moment, with we're struggling for money like everyone else is. I've lost. Spudfit's not all I do. I have another job, and not anymore. I don't. My wife is a musician, and of course there's nothing musical happening at the moment. So she's lost all her money. This is not a sob story, by the way. I'm just telling you this because I eat the cheapest I can get. I just buy the cheapest potatoes. If I had lots of money, I would go for organic, but at the moment I don't. I get whatever's cheapest, and that's fine. I think organic potatoes or organic food in general, if you get organic, you can give yourself an A plus, and if you get non-organic, then you just get an A. And an A is still pretty good. You should be proud of an A. You should be happy with an A. If all the food you eat gets you an A, then you're going to be super healthy. You're going to be super fit, strong, all of that sort of stuff. And if you can get organic and take it up to an A plus, then that's great. But if not, an A is very, very good. Most people don't get an A.
That's great. I just saw God, this goes so fast. It was about, did you ever get sick of eating potatoes?
Yeah, in the first couple of weeks, I was sick of them all day, every day. I hated potatoes, and yeah, I got to the point where just thinking about potatoes made me like, oh, just no, not interested. But I got through that, and then from that point on, no, I didn't get sick of potatoes, and I'm still not sick of potatoes. I love them.
Yeah.
It took a mental change to get through that point where I didn't want to eat potatoes, and then it was all good.
Yep, thank you. That was Yael's question. Stephanie says, do you find baking potatoes and refrigerating them and eating the next day changes the texture for the better? I think if you're going to do something like air frying, for sure it does.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, if I just want to eat a baked potato, I'd rather eat it fresh. I like them fresh out of the oven for a baked potato. But yeah, if sometimes I'll definitely refrigerate a baked potato and then the next day cut them up and use them to make fries in the air fryer. And I do think that's better that way. Yeah, I like it. And same with mash. I like storing mashed potato in a box in the fridge overnight, and then the next day you can, it's like it sets. It becomes like it's a set block of mashed potato, and then you can tip the box upside down. You've got a block of potato, and you can cut it up and do interesting things with it. So yeah, it's keeping cooked potatoes.
I love to do that. I call it crispy mashed potato steaks. You can do the same thing with oats. Chef Bravo just figured that out with leftover oatmeal. He would do the same thing, and that's how he made his oatmeal French toast. It's very cool.
Really? Wow. I haven't seen it. I have seen some Chef Bravo thing, but I haven't seen that. But yeah, of course that would work. That sounds great.
Yeah, it does. It's very cool. Stephanie wants to know if you exercise every day.
I want to exercise every day, but I have a lot of work to do, and I have 2 kids, and there's a lot going on at the moment. So I would say that I probably end up exercising 4 or 5 times a week. I want to exercise every day, but it's not always something that I can do. So yeah, I think it's a good idea to exercise every day, and that's what I aim for. But 4 or 5 times a week is what I end up with. Yeah.
That's still pretty good. More than the national average, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I work really hard. People probably most don't know. I don't know why you would. But I'm a former elite kayaker, so I'm used to. Well, I'm not used to it. It's a long time ago, but I have a background where I train long and hard every day, and I would ideally I would like to get back to that. I'd like to be able to train for hours every day and really push myself hard, but that's unrealistic. But when I do train, I do still push very hard. I'll do an hour training and I'll be just drenched in sweat by the end of it and like struggling to walk. I really, really push for that hour, and yeah, it feels good. I like how I feel when that's done.
Neat. Clara May says, how many meals do you eat in one day? Is it true a person needs 3 meals?
I just eat whatever I feel like. Most days it's 4 meals a day I usually eat, but sometimes I wake up and I don't feel like breakfast, so I don't have it, and then I end up having 3 meals or sometimes 2 meals. It's I don't really have a rule of what I follow. I just eat when I feel like eating. I eat as much as I feel like eating whenever I feel like eating, and yeah, usually that works out as 4 meals in a day, but yeah, it varies.
Yeah, and you're a big guy. Aren't you 6 feet or taller?
I'm 6'5". Yeah,
that's pretty tall.
Yeah, and I'm a big 6'5". Like I'm not a tall, skinny 6'5" guy. Like Michael Clapper is he's the same height as me. He's a skinny sort of build guy, but I'm a wide guy, so I've got a little bit more to feed than most people. So yeah, I do eat quite a bit of food. Yeah.
That's great. I get this question a lot, especially when I have chefs, and I don't really have a good answer, but how do you store your potatoes? Because I find the sweet potatoes last a long time, but man, after a few days, maybe because it's always 100 here, my potatoes start growing those eyes.
Yeah, yeah. Mostly, my key to that is that I don't buy too much at a time. Like I don't buy like you can get 20 kilos, so like 40, 45 pound bags of potatoes. I don't buy that because, yeah, I did buy that amount when I was eating only potatoes. I would buy, yeah, like 30, 40 pounds at a time because I knew that I was going to get through that in a week. But now I don't eat as many. So I would buy like 10 pounds at a time and that'll be gone in instead of that being gone in like 1.5 days as it was when I was eating only potatoes, that'll be gone like I'll probably buy that twice a week, maybe 10 pounds of potatoes twice a week. And then I can just store them in a cupboard and they'll be fine for a few days. Yeah.
But you can eat them when they have them. You just cut the eyes off, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't worry about it. I just cut the eyes off if they've got them. But I'd rather like same with my not wanting to peel potatoes, being too lazy. I'd also rather not have to spend the time cutting the eyes off.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's just we're trying to go to the store less because of the sheltering once a week. So that's why we're not buying like the 20-pound bags and things like that.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's a good point. And we also we're going to the shop. I'm probably going twice a week actually. So yeah, like yesterday I bought 4 kilos of potatoes, and then yeah, next time I go, I'll probably buy another 4 kilos. But yeah, when before coronavirus, we would basically go to the shop every day. We live pretty close to it, so we just go every day and buy what we need. But now we're going twice a week, so yeah, that's the way it works for us.
So Monica says, have you kept the weight off? Let's see the beautiful fit bod. I don't know if he wants to do this. This is a PG. This is a family show. Even Derek Creesize didn't take his shirt off yesterday.
Only my wife gets to see me with my shirt off.
That is a great answer.
I did it. I did it during that year, and it was fun. But this is, to me, honestly, this is not about how I look. It really is not about how I look. I like how I feel, and I like what my body can do, and I like how I can move. I can go running now, where I used to be able to. I couldn't go running before because my knee and my ankle couldn't handle it. And I can fit into my old racing kayak. I literally couldn't fit in my racing kayak before, and now I can fit in it and I can go kayaking and I can chase my boys around and I can do all that sort of stuff. I can climb the play equipment at the park, except not now because it's closed. But yeah, I can do all of that sort of stuff. And honestly, that is much more important to me than how I look. And yeah, only my wife gets to see with my shirt off. Sorry.
So what is next for Andrew Taylor?
Well, it's more of the same at the moment. I'm working on a couple of new books. Actually, I've got 2 new books working. Hopefully, who knows what's going to happen with the way the world is at the moment. So I'm not going to make any predictions of when they're going to be out. Before this all happened, I was hoping for the end of the year, but who knows. But yeah, I'm working on a couple of new books, and we've got the Mega Foods plan in our website, which we've got this membership. But actually, we've only a couple of weeks ago. Probably people don't know, but I made the membership that we have as a pay what you can thing. So instead of just charging a fee, it's like everyone's lost their jobs, no one's got money, and everyone's struggling. So I wanted to sort of remove the barriers. So you can go and join you just name your price. If you can afford more, then that's good. And if you can't, that's good too. Just get involved and you can check out the Mega Foods plan that way. So yeah, that's really what it's all about for me, is doing this Mega Foods thing and coming up with a couple more books. And then, yeah, hopefully at some point I'll get back to being able to train every day and really, get back to being an athlete and put the fit into Spud Fit. That's another thing that I'm really working on at the moment.
Are your books recipe books or like, non-recipe books?
Yeah. So, well, I've got the big recipe book that I've got is potato based. It's got lots of not only potatoes, but potatoes with other things. And now the next recipe book that I'm working on is the Mega. I don't know what I'm going to call it. Probably Mega Foods. And it's a whole food plant-based book. And it's going to be focused on all of potatoes, but also all of the other mega foods that we've talked about. And so, yeah, that's one book. And then another book is going to be a bit more psychology related about how to make the changes stick, that sort of thing. Yeah.
That's great. Let's see. I saw one more question from Robert. When you were obese, did you have high blood sugar?
Yeah, I did. I was pre-diabetic. I was not on any medication. I would have been diabetic. It was a matter of time, but I was not yet at the point where I needed medication. But yeah, my blood sugar was high, and it was a worry, and I was definitely heading down that path of type 2 diabetes. Yeah.
Terrific. Well, thank you. It's been so great catching up with you. And I just have to say thank you for making the humble Spud, the potato, great again.
Thank you, Chef AJ. I love talking to you always, and yeah, thank you for helping people get through this this tough time that we're going through. It's good to have this to look forward to.
Right. You were my second Aussie. I did on Anya Cast a couple of weeks ago, but she says
Thank you. I love Anya. Yeah.
She says she's nowhere near you. I figured same country, but she says you guys are actually quite far.
Yeah, we have met a couple of times, but yeah, she'd be like 1,100 miles or something from me.
Oh, that's too far. Well, if you ever come to the United States again, Linda Middlesworth was watching. She'd love to see you and all of us.
Hey Linda, yeah, I love Linda too. I stayed at her house for a couple of nights when we went to your conference in where did we go? San Antonio?
In Sacramento.
Sacramento, yeah. So yeah, hi Linda, thanks for saying good day and thanks for having me.
Well, actually, I appreciate that because you were the judge and I won, so that's why we're friends. I'm just kidding. Of course. All right.
Not rigged.
Well, take care and good luck, and thanks again for all your work, and thank you guys for watching. Come back tomorrow. Make sure you follow me on YouTube or Facebook or my mailing list because we'll give you the exact times when we know them. Thanks again, Andrew. It was delightful catching up with you.
No worries. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for watching, and spud up everybody.